What's up, fuckers?
What's up, fellas? It's Romo.
It's Justin.
We have Pillar of Thrillers in the building. We have an exciting episode for y'all today. We had just finished doing the Wrong Turn episode. That should be out by now. Go check that episode out. Share it to all your friends. If you've seen the movie, it is a must watch for us horror fans.
And we got an exciting one for you today. Today, we got Michelle Halloween as our guest, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
She has a lot of energy, and I absolutely love it. She's usually the interviewer on a lot of other horror community members. Today, she's going to be the interviewee with us. So we really don't want to waste too much time with our intro. We're actually going to be having a drink with her as we talk about some of her favorite films.
Yeah, she ain't no bitch, you know what I'm saying? She's here. She got it. Matter of fact,
I don't even know what that means.
Look, man, so she's probably going to go harder than us. She's got a Jack and Coke. We got tonight. We don't even have Dos Equis. We have Miller Lite.
We had Dos Equis.
Yeah, we have it. Yeah.
We got Miller Lights right now.
Let's
go ahead.
We're gonna go ahead and
do our sponsors.
Cosi, man, Cosi. Middle of a redesign right now. Kind of, not really. It's just the orange part.
Yeah,
but
working through the logo. It's gonna be a little bigger, changing color. It's gonna be really great.
Yeah.
Brandon, just be kicking it. Actually, give me 2 seconds, Justin. You kick off the rest of that.
Okay.
I gotta put something on real quick.
Yeah. So just be kicking it. Brandon is our boy. He's got some laces coming. I'm about to have a jersey, a baseball jersey. You already know. Go follow him. Go follow his shit. Clean shoes too. Oh, there it is. There it is.
The Jordan 3s, concrete. Just be kicking it hoodie. This shit's comfortable as fuck. Go get it. It's also clean. I got 3 outfits already I picked out to wear this with. I got all the shoes to wear with it too. I mean, you get all your apparel from Brandon and support his sneaker page.
Yes.
Last but not least,
Pond Junkies, Megan, Volante, TT, they are back. We are here. We are ready to go. Thank you so much. They did get us an adapter for my computer. We got some shit in the works, and I'm so excited to do this video with them. Got real collabs going. With that said, another collab that we're doing, which is right now, Michelle fucking Halloween. What a boss ass bitch. She is here with us, and she's ready to drink, talk, and do all kinds of shit with us.
Hi! How are you guys doing?
We're doing very well. We just told everybody how much of a boss ass bitch you are, so that's one. And we're excited to have you here. Before we even start, I just wanted to say thank you, for accepting our our offer. You know, essentially, I don't know what else. It's
no, it's an offer.
Is that right? I don't know. Thank you for joining us.
For helping us out.
Yeah.
Of course.
You don't have to. You don't have to do any of this stuff. You just by your grace, you said yes, and we appreciate that.
We're all a family. We're all a community. So of course I'm going to say yes. I'm sorry. Of course I'm going to say yes. I can't believe I just fucking said of course. Who died?
Oh, I love it. So I was hyping you up before we got in here. I was like, Michelle Halloween has a lot of energy, and we like to think we have a lot of energy. And we're like, but Michelle's going to also match our energy. So that's exactly what we needed. You're out on the West Coast. So where exactly are you at? You don't have to tell specifically latitude, longitude. You just give us a range, because we know the 3-hour difference is quite a bit for us.
Sure it is. I'm actually in Southern California, about 40 miles east of LA, in a town called Rancho Cucamonga, which is a suburb where dreams go to die.
Oh, shit.
I don't mind telling people about this shithole, but it's really nice suburbia, but it's not a place if you are weird and eccentric and yeah. So
is
that's
it
where I
kind
am
of like, so I'm from New York, and is it kind of like how people think of New York, where it's like they don't think there's another part of New York outside of Manhattan? It's kind of like, yeah.
It's just like that, and it's like this little town. You're like, oh, there's LA, and then there's nothing around LA, but then there's San Francisco, which is above, the top of California. So I don't know what people really think, but I've often thought about like, well, New York is so much bigger. There's the city, there's Manhattan, but then there's also like Sleepy Hollow. I'm not a good example because I'm like, all the suburbs suck, but I would still think everywhere else is better than where I live. So, but I have LA 40 miles away. It's actually a really easy drive. You know, before the pandemic, that's where I would hang out most of the time, where I would go to conventions and do all my shit and nightclubs that I miss so much. But yeah, I've been in the suburbs for well over a year.
You know where you have to go? You got to come here.
We're in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's funny you said that.
Dragon Con.
Oh, that sounds rad. Now, the funny thing is about Georgia is last year we were saying at the end of Halloween, let's go visit Eric. He's a crafty one in Michigan for Halloween 2021, right? But then I started meeting more people from Georgia, and I'm like, so I have an uncle who lives in Atlanta, and I'm like, I don't want to go see him. I mean, it'd be nice every 8 years or so. But then I started talking to Volante, okay, Haunt Junkies, and Megan, and then I started interviewing. Believe it or not, a surf rock band out there. They're in, I forgot where they're in. There's some swamp. There's not swamps in Georgia, but that's just where they stay. They're like in a swamp. And then
there might be.
Maybe they say they're coming from the swamps. It looks real foresty. And then there was another band guy who was like, hey, I have an Airbnb in the back of my house. Why don't you guys come? You guys are fucking humble and nice to invite people like us into your homes already. And I'm down. I feel like Georgia is the place I'm going to end up for a Halloween 2021.
Oh, you should. There's a lot of good haunts here, and you hit it on the head. Like, basically, it's like as southern as you can get, in my opinion. Like, without being backwoods, because you got the city of Atlanta. Justin ain't an actual Georgian. He's from New York, but I'm from Georgia, and basically, like, we're all southern. We're all nice and everything like that. But it's way different than what California is. I guarantee. Is that where you grew up at?
Yeah, I've been here my whole entire fucking life. In fact, we're moving to Oregon. I'll make that announcement. That was one of my big announcements for March. We're moving to Oregon in summer because Perpetual Sunshine is not my jam. Never has been. I'm over it. Never fucking rains here. That song was true in the 90s. It's true today. I need rain, clouds. We got some rain today, and no shit, it was like, here's some rain. All right, sounds good.
Come up to Georgia. You get all 4 seasons in 1 week in Georgia.
Isn't it hot as shit there too? Like,
oh my god, I fucking hate the summer.
It gets hot and humid here.
It's like 102 degrees, and your hair get all fucking frizzy and
right.
Yeah. Justin's always doing his hair like every 30 minutes, so it's like he worries about that really.
But Georgia's super progressive. Like, Georgia's progressing, and I'm like, I'm cool with it. I will come to visit, but I will not live there. How about that?
Yeah, come through.
I mean, towards the nature.
I'm sure you'll have 2 places. You know, you'll have 2 places to stay. You got Volante's house. You got my house right here. I got
3.
Yeah,
3 now. 3. Let me add this to my list. I'll be in Georgia in October.
Come through. If you come through, then you can come see the hunt that we're gonna put together for Haunt Junkies, right? So you get to see that.
That place is always packed,
and and it's free, so you get to come see it firsthand. That'd be dope. And we could do like a, if you're here, we could do a 3-way collab, like in person, and do something dope with like Pillar.
I think that would be fucking lit. Yeah. I think that would be. Could you imagine us all together? It's not enough news in the world.
Yeah,
it would be a shit show. It would be in a good way.
Fucking amazing.
With Halloween mischief.
Before we continue this, we always start our episodes by chugging a beer. Obviously, we just told everybody you have a Jack and Coke, so
you'll just be sipping that with us.
Yeah, unless you decide you want to chug it, you're more than welcome to.
You want me to fall off the chair? I did that last week on a phone call, and I'm like, yeah, let's not do. I did that sober though, so fuck it. We'll see what happens.
But we're going to start that. We'll do it. It's not a dose for us.
It's Miller. We're doing Miller Lite tonight. We ran out of Dos Equis. Michelle, cheers.
Cheers to you. Thank you so much,
guys. Cheers.
Is recorded on 2 separate tracks. Each one giving special emphasis to certain sections of the
I'm sipping.
those positions.
Oof.
It always sounds funny on the audio because it's just us guzzling down some alcohol. So it's like especially on the podcast episode, you just hear us like slurping down Miller Lite. It's like, ooh.
Well,
And then he also burps usually.
Okay, good.
yeah. For like 5-10 minutes, I can't stop burping. It's kind of bad.
Yeah.
Also,
No,
Miller
it
Lite's
isn't.
disgusting.
So,
Yeah.
Michelle, like, to kick us off was we know you're kind of the interviewer. We're making you the interviewee on this episode. Can you kind of tell us, just give us a small background about your love for horror, maybe some of the movies or films that inspired you growing up or helped develop this love you have for horror, just everything about you and how you came about to be Michelle Halloween in the horror community.
Of course, I love telling my story. When I
Love it.
was a kid, I knew I loved Halloween the night. I was in 4th grade, and it was Halloween, and it was a feeling that I got. So I talked about it before, where I felt like there was this shift, there was this wind in the air, there was this smell that smelled like fall, and it shows up every once in a while, even in Southern California. Yes. And so,
Sorry.
no, I love it. It feels like home. So that particular night, after trick-or-treating, where I grew up in Pomona, even though I talk all this shit about where I grew up, Halloween was lit. And, that's where we saw haunts. That was when I first experienced actual do-it-yourself haunts. In the late 80s, walking down these particular streets with these craftsman houses where we actually went into homes, foyers to get our candy. So that night I came home with my haul, and Halloween was on. It was on a public broadcast station. Again, this had to have been 89 or 88 or 89 or maybe 90 even. I don't know, but I was young, and I remember watching Michael Myers for the first time and going, "This shit is lit." And I had one of those sweet tart lollipops, and I was just sucking on it, watching the film, and like, oh, I love this so much. I know this is a gesture that whatever. I just should have a lollipop, but I remember my tongue being raw, and the next day I was like, dude, I just saw this scary ass movie. And then I remembered all the scary movies I saw before that I wasn't allowed to watch. So then I started staying up really late at night, and my mom got HBO and shit like that every once in a while. So I would sneak and stay awake and watch like The Shining. I never heard these movies. Nightmare on Elm Street. I never heard them because I couldn't turn the TV up because my parents were asleep.
Right.
So I never heard. I only got visual, so I was kind of reading lips and shit. So you can imagine when I did start watching them with full audio, I was like, fuck. But what got me was like faces. The Shining, for example, I remember in the middle of the night, I remember a bug walked across the living room floor. So I was like stuck in my couch. I was like, well, I'm not going anywhere. It's death or death, like The Shining's going to get me. But fucking Jack Nicholson's face, his facial expressions during that film scared the shit out of me. And then there was Pet Sematary. I started going to slumber parties. And then what do you do at slumber parties? You watch horror films. I remember seeing Pet Sematary for the first time and going, fuck, I love this. I was horrified. I was scared to death, but it was so much fun. I saw Carrie for the first time at my cousin's slumber party. And that's just where I got addicted. I was like, I have to watch all these horror films. And I'm going to go on to, because this is my story, but I'll wrap it up here in a second. But
You don't.
when
Yeah,
I was
don't
11,
take all the time you want. You don't need to wrap anything up. Yeah.
Oh, okay. When I
Yeah.
was 11, I was at a birthday party I didn't want to be at for my little sister's friends, and I was hanging out with a grown-up, and I was pissed off, so I was like, you know what? I don't know, I was just bragging about what a badass I was because I was able to watch Nightmare on Elm Street and The Shining, all these horrible, horrifying, scary films, and my dad said, yeah, you talk all this shit, but have you heard about The Exorcist? And I'm like, what are you talking about? What is this old fogey shit, And he's like, oh, you want to keep talking shit, little girl? He took me to the mom and pop video store, rented The Exorcist. Okay, I was nervous, but I was like, whatever, Dad, you don't know shit. What was scary in the 70s? So he turned it on, and the first 45 minutes is pretty boring. I didn't remember what was going on because I was like all ADD, playing with my fingers. And finally, when Reagan peed on the floor, I was like, and she said, if you go up there, you'll die, or we're all going to die up there, or whatever she said. That's when I stood still, and I'm like, I got these shivers. I'm like, oh shit. My dad looked at me like, it's going to happen. So then, needless to say, I tried watching the rest of the movie like this because I was fucking horrified. Like, I was legit scared. And for 2 weeks after that, my dad, clearly won his little, she doesn't know shit about horror films. And, he told me the story about like people throwing up in the theater, being hauled away in ambulances when it came out, in 73. I couldn't watch that movie again. Like, I gave up horror films for a minute until I was, started going to slumber parties. As long as I didn't put on The Exorcist, which nobody did. There's everything else, fucking Child's Play. But The Exorcist, man, that to this day, I have so many stories about that damn movie, but it scares the shit out of me. But I love it. So that's when I think I learned that I like being scared. And these days it's hard to get that good fright. I get it. I feel like every decade I get a good scare. It started, I think, after The Exorcist, when it came out in when they did the
74, I think.
74. But when it came out again, they released like the spider crawl scene down the theater.
Right.
In the theater. Remember that shit? We didn't see that before because they cut it out in 74. And
It's
so
iconic.
I had. Yeah, so I have the fuck. I still get that scene scares the shit out of me. My kids will do that, and I'm like, you guys are assholes. But I remember being at a talent show for my kids' school, and some gymnast did that, and I was like, yeah, I'm out of here.
Oh no!
No, hell no.
But I think after it came out, I think it was like 1990. I think it was 2000. They came out with the scenes that they had cut. And then it was Paranormal Activity. That was the next one that scared the shit out of me. Because I watched it in the middle of the night on a rainy day. Insidious, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, give me something to be afraid of. Not for real. Horror movies. But just
not for real. I love how you had to.
I like being scared.
You need
horror
to
films
watch
cure my
Long Term.
anxiety. I will. You told me that I should. I mean, I had it on my list. And I'm like, all right. But do you ever get like... I don't know. I have a hard time choosing films
the whole time.
Really? It's that
like,
good?
I don't really get scared like that anymore. But like, I was actually like worried. Like, my heart was racing. Like, we just did this past episode, but almost from beginning to end, it was super, super tense.
Yeah, Justin absolutely loved it, and I really liked it as well. It's a really good film. It's very intense, which is what you want these days, because.
Yeah.
What it sounds like, everything you're saying is spot on. Like The Exorcist, Paranormal Activity, those movies come around that are just different.
Yeah.
They're just different.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it sounds like you almost, with how much horror content you consume, you get a little desensitized to it, which we also did also.
A lot.
So I'm glad to hear all these ones that really truly scare you.
Because it was we talked about this with Eric a couple episodes ago, but we mentioned The Exorcist. And it's funny you say that, because I mentioned last time, I was like, so it's funny when you kind of like rewatch things later and you realize some things like aren't scary, or they're just as good, right? So it's, for me, Halloween from 1978, and it's now 2021. It still gives me the same kind of chills. It still gives me the same kind of like feeling. I get goosebumps anytime I hear the theme music, right?
Oh,
I get chills. Yeah. But we talked about The Exorcist with him. And I was...
Justin actually has an interesting opinion.
Yeah, so like, I know it's like a classic and it's like iconic and people love it. And it's like it's like 74, the first time you ever see that kind of film.
The marketing was incredible.
Right. So...
Yes! That was it.
I rewatched it about a month, I don't know, maybe a month back, a few weeks back, but I found myself just dozing off. I found myself I'm like, yo, for the first hour, this shit sucks. I'm like,
so
fuck
boring.
this. What am I watching? For an hour, I'm like, I turned it off.
I was hurt when you were saying this stuff.
Yeah. I was like, I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I kind of like, for me, but that's a personal preference, right? So for me,
it's all personal, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to be.
It's an interesting perspective, because when I had my kids watch it, my older kids, I have 4, and they were like, "Oh, we're ready for the scariest shit," right? No lie, I gave them a TED talk. I prepared them. I was like, what you're about to see. You know, I was like, you guys, and I had a couple of my friends, kids over with the parents' permission. I was like, you guys sure that I'm allowed to give you guys your kids are allowed to watch this movie? And they're like, the mom's like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. I invited my dad over because obviously he was the one that, got me into it. My kids laughed through the whole fucking movie. And, these are kids who grew up watching The Walking Dead, and my kids have been allowed to watch horror movies in phases their whole entire lives. Like my 21-year-old grew up, I think the first like scary movie that he ever watched was The Mummy with Brandon Fraser. And for a 2-year-old, that was kind of scary, but they laugh through the whole fucking thing, and they still bring it up to this day that everything I watch is trash. And they go, remember The Exorcist? I'm like, these are kids who are afraid of like The Conjuring. Chapter definitely was worth, that was another one that surprised the fuck out of me, and scared the shit out of me and my kids. So that was pretty rad. But they make fun of me about The Exorcist. They're like, it was so whack, Mom, and I'm like, it really okay.
Yeah, it's just crazy because like plenty of times you watch it and then like us horror fans really can't appreciate it, but like your kids having seen it and like they've seen the new era of horror, that Conjuring, Insidious, It realm. Obviously, they don't know anything really about, and they may have seen it, but they don't know anything about the miniseries It and the old Tim Curry Pennywise. It's just.
They do. I'm their mother. Okay. They know, but they think everything. They think that everything that I'm like that. Anytime I get excited, because again, they're all young adults and teenagers now, so like everything you like is trash. Like when I watch Terrifier, which I watch all the time.
Justin loves Terrifier. Do you have a Terrifier tattoo?
No way!
Yeah, dude.
We have to.
See it?
Yes.
See it? But they were like, what is this bullshit? I'm like, this is fucking horror masterpiece shit right here. And they're like, this is trash, Mom. I'm like, you guys are putting you up for adoption.
So, Michelle, I noticed this on one of your Instagram pictures, actually. I saw you have a Halloween tattoo also. I'm going to give you the floor. I'm a big tattoo fan. I have a bunch of tattoos. I don't have any horror tattoos yet. I have some ideas, but I was like, I don't know. I'm very particular with my tattoos. I got small one-offs here and there. My latest one just being a longhorn skull I got on my arm. But I want everybody, I know you showed us the Nightmare Before Christmas one. I don't want to steal your thunder, but I want you to kind of like talk through them so everybody can see the ones you want to show off. I think they're super dope.
We both love tattoos.
So this one was my first big piece. I mean, I started getting tattoos when I was 18, but it was like a shitty fairy on my back. I'm 40, almost 41, so you can imagine I'm old. So are my tattoos. Some of my tattoos are old too. But when I got Jack, that was my first big piece. But then I got the 4 bats to represent my kids. With Jack Skellington, it's because I always dig deeper into everything that I watch. And I grew up watching, I actually saw Nightmare Before Christmas in the theater in 1993 with my grandma and fell in love because this was like dark. I was always dark, into the dark shit. And I'm like, ooh, Halloween and Christmas, I'm down. I am Jack Skellington. I get tired of doing the same old fucking thing all the time, which is why I'm so random. I always try new things. Sometimes I'm good at it. Sometimes I'm shit at it. But either way, I'm always doing something else because I can't keep doing the same thing constantly. That's why I refuse to get a job. I can't do it. You know what I mean?
Doing the same thing over and over and over. Yeah, I get you.
It gets so repetitive. And then, and so I'm lucky enough to be able to not have to work and I could do what I want. But then I have Michael Myers. These 2 tattoos I got during the pandemic quarantine when it was a little bit safer. I found that I've been looking at this guy's work for years, and I said, I want to do this whole left arm in horror. And he goes, what's the first one you want? I'm like, well, obviously it's got to be Michael Myers. So he did kind of like this really cool piece. He drew it up and then he put Boogeyman on Michael's mask on the forehead on the top here. And there he is with the tree. It's one of my favorite ones. But with Michael Myers and Halloween with me, it's like the feeling of Halloween. Like Halloween has never scared me. It just felt like Halloween, the movie.
No, I get it.
You get it? I'm attracted to Michael Myers. I think he's wonderful because he's a silent man. Maybe, but I just loved the character, you know. And then
The less we talk,
Terrifier,
the
I
better,
had
right?
to get right. And this one was funny because I was like, do I really want to get Art the Clown? But Terrifier, even though it's kind of new still, that movie fucked me up when I saw it, and I'm like, but I love it. And Art the Clown was, I mean, you've seen it, but he is just absolute perfection. So for my birthday last year, kind of a personal horror story. 40th birthday, and I usually don't make a big deal out of my birthdays, but 40, I was like, I knew I was at a crossroads with my life, and I wanted to party. I wanted to make it a big fucking deal. My birthday is March 19th, so as you can imagine, that date, it was when the world closed down. I mean, I got all my money back for all the stuff that I was supposed to do, but one of the things I was going to do was try to meet David Howard Thornton at Days of the Dead in Las Vegas. And the guy who plays Art the Clown.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. But what did happen was I still got my Terrifier cake. My 40th birthday, I got my cake. It was like really expensive because I was supposed to have this big party at this spooky themed brewery. And that didn't happen. Literally everything shut down on my birthday. So I felt on my 40th birthday. So I was like, felt this insignificant. Yeah, I was really feeling insignificant, but I had my cake, which was badass. But then one of my friends, actually, this is why I love the horror community so much. One of my friends did one of those cameo things and had David Howard Thornton call me and do a whole video for my birthday. You know, which you know,
that's awesome.
I was like, holy shit! But then you know what happened was later on, I got the balls and I actually messaged David myself and was like, hey, dude, I love you so much as Art the Clown. We had this whole conversation that he ended up on my show. So, but before the show, I said I had gotten this Michael Myers done. A week later, I, you know, confirmed the interview with David, and I went back to my tattoo dude and told him, dude, guess the fuck what? He's like, shut up. You have an interview with Art the Clown? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, he moved everything. He moved everything so he could tattoo this on me before the interview. So I got this done the day before the interview.
That's fucking fire.
That's amazing.
Right?
With the tricycle in there.
Right. And what's funny is the tricycle, my husband later on, he's like, that's not the right bike, Michelle. And I'm like, dude, you're right. Like, fuck. And David noticed it too, but David said something different. He's like, and trust me, my arm was swollen, you know, because I was still healing from this one. So my arm was all fat during the interview, but I was like, hey, you're on my arm forever. But what was funny was that the tricycle, like, I freaked out a bit because David had said, oh, look at the tricycle. And I thought, he was like, well, you fucked that up. No, if you look at the trailer for Terrifier 2, he's riding a fucking tricycle. So
right. And doesn't he ride around on a tricycle? He rides around on a little tricycle in the first movie. Like, is it just a different one than what you saw?
Yeah, it's like a little clown bike. It's like a two-wheeler. But in the trailer for Terrifier 2, it's an actual tricycle. So I'm like, and I know this movie is going to be fire because I know it's going to be amazing. I love indie horror. So, and the fact that they're so open to talk to their fans, I've been able to chat with Damien and David, and I'm like, look at my fucking life, dude. So that in itself was a great 40th birthday surprise, you know, like 40th year thing. But I love that movie so much, and I know it gets a lot of hate, but isn't it not like what horror is about?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
So fun fact, like, I don't necessarily like think it's the most intellectual horror piece in the world, but it's not. It's definitely it's in my top 5. It's in my top 5. Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
Yeah, it's just dope. I mean,
so good. It's that old grindhouse feel, and like Justin was texting me about it, and like I mean, I think this is the most text I've gotten a sequence from Justin. I get a lot of texts from Justin, but like he loved this movie, and it's so good.
It's really like it's just very well done. I think as a whole, there's not a lot to it. You don't really think about much. You just sit and you enjoy whatever is on the screen.
Yeah, and how often do you get somebody? Exactly, and how often do you get somebody like Art?
Yeah, and that's just it. I'm like, fuck. because it came out. I think it premiered. No, 2017 came out in 2017, obviously, and then Terrifier came out a year later. But everybody was all Pennywise, Pennywise. I never once, as dope as it Chapter 1 was. Like, I often tell people that garage scene gave me an eye orgasm. Like, that was horror. I was like scared, and
Yeah.
that it scared the shit out of me. And I have stories about how it traumatized one of my kids. To go to the damn movie. I mean, but he was fucked up after that movie for a while, and so he split. But it's really interesting that never once did I consider ever wanting Pennywise tattooed on me. Not even Tim Curry's character, even though that's badass and iconic. Art though, I think I resonate with horror like movies like Terrifier. I like independent films. I like shit that just doesn't give a fuck, basically. I don't care about, I care about storylines, but I want to see them put everything they can into it without worrying about corporate bullshit or censorship or saying that's too much horror. Like Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses was a masterpiece, but imagine if he didn't have to worry about going through, how long did it take for the damn studio to actually release that film? Like 8 years. But you see what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think it just goes deeper than just the film. It's a lot more than that. It's the fact that it was done balls out. Damien did what he wanted. David did what he wanted, and he fucking killed it, dude. Like, facial expressions.
So,
Yeah.
what are some of you mentioned that you love indie horrors.
Mhm.
What are some of your favorites? Because, like, obviously Terrifier is one of them. For me, because I love
They
Terrifier.
deserve more love. All those horror.
They really do.
I love Autopsy of Jane Doe. I love that.
Ooh,
Uh,
that's a good one.
It Follows, another
Such a
indie
good
film that I
film.
love. Those are probably, for me, those would be my top 3 indie films.
Yeah, and I've
horror-wise.
recently a lot of indie films I didn't realize were indie films until after I'd watched them. So being It Follows and Autopsy of Jane Doe being 2 of them that we really connected on. Recently, The Dark and the Wicked has been a really popular one that I've noticed. I really love that because it's made by the same people that made The Strangers, which I absolutely love that film. And then
That shit
Pyewacket was on
scary.
Hulu. Yeah, Pyewacket was a good one, but we want to hear some of your. We love any time that someone wants to talk about independent horror films. We want to hear some more of the ones you really enjoyed.
Well, for me, it started with Trick or Treat, because that was an indie film. So it
Mike
started in a
Flanagan.
horror anthology. Yeah. So I was like, Michael Daughtry is like, so it started. That's when I'm like, how come this? I remember questioning, how come this never got into theaters? And then I start learning about independent horror films. To be honest with you, the whiskey's getting me, so I will try my best to remember names because I have been doing my hardest to like jot down names of independent horror films that I've loved, and poof, they're gone. For example, I watched Underwater last year, which is not it's not indie. Allegedly, I don't remember watching Underwater. Okay, but I tried to revisit it about a month ago, and my son was like, "Mom, we watched that. We had a whole conversation. Remember?" I'm like, "I don't remember any of this." He's like, "Well, it's because you were, stoned." And I'm like, "No, I've never been that stoned to forget an entire horror film." Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that's how my mind is anymore. It's like a little bit foggy, but obviously Terrifier. It Follows is another good one. What was it? I got the opportunity to watch a few Dread movies from Dread Central.
That's dope.
I don't want to say this film is one of my favorites, but it's one that I can't ever stop thinking about. It's just once it's in your mind, you can't stop thinking about it. And I'm not ashamed, Butt Boy.
I've never seen it. I don't know.
I haven't seen that either.
Can you explain to us what it is?
Download the Dread app, Dread Central app. It's one of their feature favorites, and it's literally about a dude who goes for his midlife, inspection of his butt, and apparently his ass is a portal, to another realm in his ass. So he starts shoving things up his ass, okay, and I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, people talk shit about Terrifier. I'm like, but have you seen Butt Boy? So he shoves things up his butt, kids, like an infant, a dog, other objects, phones, like, because it feels good to him. So then you keep going through this film, and I recommend you watching it while you're under the influence of something. But he puts, there's this detective investigating, and he ends up getting into dude's butt. And literally, it's a whole world. There's a fart sequence. It's just absolute. And then there's I'll just spoil it. He explodes at the end. It's just asinine. It's literally.
You can
It's totally asinine.
You can spoil whatever you want. We spoil shit all the time.
But it was one of those films. I'm like, what the fuck did I just watch? I really have been enjoying. She would die.
She would love that movie. She's all about butt stuff.
I mean, I am too, but this is I can't. I don't even know.
Well, she doesn't do like anal or anything like that. She just
we were talking about so many different random things, like those funny, like kind of the mindless horrors. Like I was telling Justin before, I don't know if you've seen any trailers for this, but like Psycho Goreman just came out on Amazon Prime, and I'm like, this looks like Power Rangers on acid in a horror movie, and I was like, I gotta see this.
I'm always down to see shit like that because I don't like. Just because it's not intellectual doesn't mean it's not going to be good. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm all about it. It's like,
and that's what I love about like Shudder, because you get all of these independent horror films that they highlight. I'm like, these things are fucking Oscar worthy, in my opinion. I recently, thanks to the help with Ivotrice Littles, she had me watch a couple of films, because sometimes I get like, why are there so many choices? Help me, somebody, tell me what to watch tonight. So she had me watch a couple of films, and I'm like, why are these not mainstream? You know what? I don't want them to be mainstream. Leave them alone. Independent is actually a lot of, there was a couple of films that I was supposed to cover last year that got put on hold because of the pandemic. One is called Appetite for Sin. And I know they started resuming filming, so you might want to check that out. Then there was another one by Masm Films where they did an actual, it was like a YouTube series where it's a chick, Michael Myers. So when I say independent, I mean independent. And then there's like Steve with Chainsaw Massacre recently, and I'm like, oh shit, this is gonna be good. I can't wait. Like,
it looks good. It looks great.
I love. Yeah,
I love
so
stuff like he was on our podcast. Steve was.
We had him. We had a great episode with him. One thing I wanted to ask you about too, because one of the things we realized when we first got you on video before the episode started was you have all this horror memorabilia and the Nightmare Before Elm Street. So you were talking earlier. I said
Christmas.
Yeah, I said
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, it's like Mike Doherty's Trick or Treat. Do you have any Sams hanging around there? Like,
yes, I do. That's my next tattoo. That's my next tattoo.
Yes, please. He's become like a cult classic.
Yes. So I have this guy I got during Halloween season. Where are my lollipops? We're moving, so some of my stuff is like all weird.
You have like the Halloween lollipop?
Oh.
I do, actually. It's broken. Somebody broke it, but I have another one somewhere else.
Oh, it's supposed to be broken,
but I
so
leave
you can
it
just
here.
play it off.
No, the stick is broken. Let's see, what else do I have? I have stickers lying around. I have this candle. I have the animatronic. You can see that on my Instagram where he like I would keep him up all year. In fact, with my new place, he's going to be kept up all year. I have shirts. I have, again, my next tattoo, I have some stuff on my bookshelf. I'm not going to go get it right now because that'll be an invitation for my kids to bother me, and I don't want them to. Sorry about the noise.
No, you're good. I can't even hear it.
What else do I have? I have, he's distracting me. I have shirts. I have the bag. Like this one, I have the Trick or Treat version too. It's in my closet. I don't want to get it. But I have the Sam version of it. Yeah, that's a Halloween one. What else do I have that's Sam worthy? I have a lot of Trick or Treat stuff. I love that film. I have a picture that I'm staring at that I can't take off my wall just yet. He's so cute though.
Yeah.
I have, but it's not just Trick or Treat. Like that was just the groundbreaker. I love everything that man does. Like I love Godzilla, King of Monsters. I love Krampus. That's another one.
This is crazy. You're hitting everything. We talked about Krampus on one of our episodes.
But I do love it.
You're hitting everything.
We're
This
so
is,
excited for Godzilla.
oh my god.
Oh my god.
We are so fucking hyped for this. This is insane. Like, I went out of my way. So the day the trailer came out, I was texting him right away, and we were like, "What's gonna happen? Oh, Mecha Godzilla is gonna be part of this. Is this what's gonna happen? Let's go on Reddit.
All these theories.
What's happening? Let me go on Reddit real quick. What's everybody thinking?" Then you see all these stills of like this robot looking,
Justin sending me all these screenshots.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't
you
help
sound
it.
like my son. It's exciting. Like I
Yeah.
pay attention to my Instagram later. I'm gonna actually post this TikTok that one of my favorite followers made, and I'm like, I think he made it, but he shared it, and I'm like, dude, let me share this because his profile is private as fuck. But I met I cannot wait for this movie. Like, no shit. If you give me, I don't know. I've always loved Godzilla. I remember the first time I watched the originals. I was like, I had my first kid when I was 19, so it was a lot of late nights. But I remember one night his grandma was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take him out," and I'm like, "What?" And I remember I got stoned instantly. She left with him, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get stoned." And then I turned on Godzilla. I turned on the old ones, and have you ever watched Godzilla High? Whoa, the old ones. Whoa.
Fire.
So then
fire.
I remember.
I assume it's fire. Yeah.
Oh, it's
like
awesome.
VHS
So
style.
then, yeah, I saw the 1998 version in the theater, and then in 2014, I took my I have again 4 kids. My third son, he was like, "Mom," he was like 11 at the time. He was so excited. I'm like, "Mom, will take you to go see it," And so he loved it. I made him a whole Godzilla costume. Then Kong came out, and I was like, "Yay!" But then I'm a Godzilla girl. I think he's gonna. I know what's gonna happen.
Better than Godzilla.
I'm a Godzilla guy. Justin's more Kong. Godzilla's winning. It's not going to be close.
Yeah, I actually don't think they're going to end up fighting each other. So that's just my.
I actually am kind of with you on that. I actually think my theory, and I did a whole blog post about it because I'm fucking stoked like everybody else. I cannot wait. I love Godzilla. He's my babe. I was one of those. I'm one of those black girls in a theater who cannot be quiet. So I'm like, when I saw King of Monsters, I was stoned off my mind, and I was like, woo! It was a good film, So super stoned. So I couldn't wait for this one, but it was really funny because this is a discussion in my house every day. My third son still is obsessed. But he's like turned his back on Godzilla, and I'm like, dude, you're a traitor. That's fucked up. I think what's going to happen is that we have come to love is not the one Kong's fighting. We all know it's Mega Godzilla, right?
Yeah.
So here's the other thing. What is Godzilla's prime purpose? He deals with the biggest threat at the time. What's the biggest threat? Humans. We fucking suck. Hello? Why is this a question? Millie Bobby Brown's character is like, he's turning on humans and we don't know why. I'm like, I do. We fucking suck. We're the biggest threat. I totally went all real world with it in my blog. I'm like, we're the threat, so he's going to try to eradicate us. And then the humans are like, oh, well, we have a bigger weapon at Skull Island. Let's bring Kong over. And honestly, in a perfect world, I would love to see them both destroy humankind. But that's not going to happen. But I think they're actually, I do think they'll fight, but I don't think they're going to, they're not going to kill each other. One will fall. I think it'll be a mutual respecting, and Kong's going to get some more well-deserved movies. That's just what I think is going to happen.
I love Kong.
Oh, he's badass. But I don't like the fact that they're pitting us against each other. Like, I know it's part of the series, but I just want to watch the film. But I love this whole, like, I love how my son, who I made this homemade fucking costume for, because there was no Godzilla costumes at the time, was like, oh, hey, fuck Godzilla. And I'm like, dude, get out of my house. You're gone. Okay, never mind. Don't leave because there's a pandemic. But the fact is, like,
Question. Just reminded me. I have a few. Well, first thing before I forget, Eric did want before I hopped on this today. He wanted me to tell you word up. Don't know what that means, but he wanted me to tell you word up.
You're dope, yo.
Yeah.
That's for you, Eric. And Volante, I will call you back. I'm also a texter, so I will call you back.
Should I FaceTime him right now in the middle of
Please
an
don't.
episode? You
No,
sure?
Just he's probably dealing with his kid and
Who?
stuff like that.
Volante ain't got shit to do right now. Hold
He's
on. Let me
probably
see.
wondering why I haven't called him yet, and he's been like, "Bitch,
No, he
you have not
knows.
called."
He knows you're on here. Let me see if he picks up.
Justin, your phone's gonna.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. But I want. With that said, I did want to ask you. So you write blogs, right?
What's up, bro?
Hey, wanted to get you on the FaceTime.
This man really got Volante on the phone.
Because Michelle wanted to say what's up.
Hi, V.
You
Did
are
he say
live.
fuck her? Did
No, he didn't say that.
Look,
He's painting his roof. Is that gold?
seriously, it's like, what time is it? 10:41 at your house, and you're.
Yeah.
Wow, Volante. Apparently you'll be up late tonight, so I can call you.
Yes, you can. I'll be ready. I hope the interview went great for you guys. I'm glad that
We're still in the middle of it, recording right
We're
now.
in
You're going
it.
to be on this episode.
Hi, V.
No, too late, bro.
See you, Volante.
Did he hang up?
He's gonna love that. But I love that. I love that you know some of these same people that we do, because they've been the people that really been close to us and really helped us out. Volante and Fun
How we
Junkies and
met?
Megan, they've been amazing. And they put us in connection with you, obviously.
Yeah, I didn't even get to ask. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go for it.
I wanted to ask you, since your blogs, I wanted to ask you about your writing.
Yeah.
What do you write about specifically, aside from your blogs? What do you want to write about? That's question one for me, right? Because and then question two would be, how did you start to become Michelle Halloween? How did that come about?
Those both go hand in hand, so it'll be an easy question. Well, what happened was see, I'm burping too. I was a little girl. I've always been obsessed with writing, and I used to write poetry. I was heavily influenced by poetic justice. So I have a bunch of poems, and I recently got all my childhood poems back from my parents, which is pretty cool. I haven't looked at them yet because I'm like, everything I write is trash. So it'll be really funny to see what that all was about.
I don't believe that to be true.
Thank you. But so later on in life, I had a bunch of kids. I had all 4 of my kids between the ages of 19 and 29. So my life was about them. The minute I found out I was pregnant at 19, I gave up, college. I was like, you know what? Because I actually went to school. I was in school to be a writer, or not a writer, but a psychologist. Major in journalism, minor in psychology. But then I got pregnant. And back then it was like, oh, well, you got to give up your life and take care of your kids. So I started working. By kid number 4, it was not an option to work anymore. It was like I'd be paying childcare just to go to work. Who wants to do that? So luckily enough, my husband was like, you can stay home. We'll just tighten the belt. We'll be fine. And that's where I've been ever since. But he bought me a laptop at that point. When I resigned from my job with, I used to work for Kaiser Permanente for 10 years throughout my childbearing years. So when I was 30, he bought me a laptop and he's like, start writing. And I'm like, okay. I didn't, because I was still raising 4 kids. So in 2017, I had the opportunity of, but throughout my 30s, from 2009 until now, I was at anything that had to do with Halloween or horror, I was a part of, as best as I could, being a mom of all these young kids. So when the convention started happening, I was there, and they would inspire me, but I was also, believe it or not, really shy. So I wouldn't talk to people, but I wanted to write about my experiences. And then my life experiences started happening. But always in the back of my mind, I wanted to write. So at the end of 2017, it was the day after Christmas, my husband said, I'm going to take the kids. I'm going to go to Idaho and visit some family. I'm not going to Idaho. I'm black. Okay. So I use that to my advantage when I don't want to go to places that are just too not the kind of white that I want. My husband's white. My kids are white. But I'm like, I'm not going to Idaho, bro. So I took the 4 days by myself, while he took the kids. And I spent a lot of time just deep thinking and going, what have you always wanted to do? You're approaching 40. you've got to start doing you, Michelle. My kids were getting older, becoming more self-sufficient. I had more time. So I figured, all right, I'll start writing. Took me a little bit, but it was 2019. I went to this amazing convention that I will never, ever, ever give up on called Midsummer Scream. You've probably heard of it. It is the best. I know Georgia's cool and all, but Southern California is the hub for Halloween and horror, okay? And this convention is pure fucking magic, okay? I've been to it since it started in 2016, I believe. I missed 1 year. That was 2018, but 2019 I got to go without my husband and my kids. So I was like, woo! Like freedom. It was party time. The first day was pure me just running around. I was drinking at 8 o'clock in the morning, having a blast. I actually started talking to people, and I'm like, I saw all these podcasters and stuff, and I'm like, well, I want to blog, you know? Believe it or not, I had no desire to be in front of a camera. I think my voice is atrocious, and I'm like, what do people want to see me for, you know? But then as I started talking to people, I started listening to podcasts too, while I was at the gym. And this is why I laugh too, because I'm like, yeah, my shows are long, but that's because the podcasts that I listen to and watch were long. That's what got me through the gym, were all these horror and Halloween podcasts. So I'm like, I want to do this. And I figured blogging would be a good way to start practicing my writing, because ultimately I would like to write a novel. So, and of course it has to be horror and exaggerated by all of my experiences. I have so many muses. So that convention changed everything. I was already on the path of like, okay, I'm going to write, but what am I going to write about? So after leaving the convention that weekend, my husband built my website, and I literally started cranking out just blogs about all of the experiences and events that I've been to. Because I did go to a shit ton of events in 2019. So I just blogged about it, and then I did my first in-person, like, you know, I started doing videos, and then people started going, you should really, really do a podcast. I'm like, why? And they're like, because we love talking to you. You should really do a podcast. So I never stopped blogging. I think I have like over 35 blogs in my website that have to do with all Halloween and horror shit. Because I write about everything that's on my mind. It could be anything from feminism to witchcraft to funerals to horror films. I don't do a lot of movie reviews because I was working, collaborating with Creepy Kingdom. So a lot of my movie reviews were with them. So you can go look at those on their website. But I was doing a lot of writing, but I also was doing a lot of vlogging, and that was in the moment. And then 2020 happened, and my focus went towards, the thing about me is I'm very, I'm not a selfish person. Basically, what my whole purpose is to share what I love about this community. Being an outcast in my own family, my whole life, and in the community that I live in, even though I've tried to be, you know, like everyone else, it never worked out for me because the real me would always come out. So what I'm doing is sharing what I love about this community, the movies, why I love them so much. Honestly, they help with my anxiety and depression. I love writing about the things that I love and I've experienced so I can share them with everyone else. And that brings me to like, well, how did I meet Volante and Megan? Well, another thing about me that's really important to note is before 2016, it was really hard for me to just be a Black girl and weird at the same time, you know, because, and it's funny, I don't blame any Black community or anything like that. I blame certain Black influences in my life that would tell me you can't be Black and do that. That's not what Black people do. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just be the weird, you know, whatever I am. So for the first time in my life, last year was a huge turning point. One of the things that I wanted to do was actually moderate a panel for Midsummer Scream. I wanted to be a part of that show in any capacity, not for money, not for anything, just give back the energy that show gave me, that convention gave me. And I wanted to do it for them. So, you know, with all the civil unrest that happened, I actually reached out to the producers of Midsummer Scream because they were getting some shit about, you know, being racist and sexist. Everyone was mad at everybody at that point. You remember how it was. And so it's also fresh. So I reached out and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to give up on you guys. Let me know how I can help. And the first thing they said was, hey, well, we're kind of talking about doing this Black Halloween panel. And I'm like, oh shit, do you think I'm worthy enough to do this? Like, but what that did was actually bring me closer to other Black people in horror. And Volante actually found that through Eric, I believe, and that panel, and that's how we ended up meeting. And I'm like, whoa, you're telling me there's a Black hunter out there, Volante? I need to get you on my show. You
Yeah,
know?
that's one of his things. You know, it's funny you talk about stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like, you know, I don't want to go to Idaho, or like it's like one of the things it's like make it normal, because like one of the things he talks about is like, you know, black people aren't into horror.
Black people don't
He's
do
like
it.
he's like they don't fuck with that kind of shit. And then, you know, when you talk about like Idaho not wanting to go there, you know, one of the things he doesn't like to do is drive. He won't like if him
Can you
and
blame
Megan are
him?
both. Yeah, seriously, no. If him and Megan are both in the car, 99% of the time, Megan's going to be the one driving the car.
Yeah,
Same with my husband.
Yeah, it's sad. That's just how it is. But we've talked about some Jordan Peele influence and just some things.
Yeah.
And one of our friends
look,
and really put a good perspective towards a lot of stuff that we want to continue to touch on as like we try to expand into just understanding other people's culture around horror.
I wish he was. I wish he was on that episode of Get Out, or sorry, Us.
We talked about doing a follow up with our buddy Brandon,
because he had really, really, really interesting perspective on like what stuff meant, like
different than what we could interpret.
Yeah, like not something I probably never would have thought of, or Remo would have never thought of. You know.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting this whole movement, how it's brought so many of, you know, Black goths. I do, and that brings me to the fact I have this blog series. I started actually doing some videos for it called African American Goth History X. It started as a written blog series last year. I did this before, you know, everything that happened, not to brag, but just the fact that I remember being very nervous about it because I don't want to insult Black folks that aren't in goth, you know, goth culture or horror. But what ended up happening was I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to put this blog series out. I started with my story being a Black goth, and then I went on to I seriously only knew like two other Black people in horror that I knew about, but it opened up a whole thing where goths all over the country Black goths started coming in touch, getting in touch with me and sharing their stories. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not alone, you know? So then when this happened, I actually got introduced to Horror Movies and Beyond, who you will love her. Ivotrice is absolutely incredible. And her story is phenomenal. But then there's so many of us, Black folks are in the horror. It's just a matter of where you live, where you are. Unfortunately, the South is a little bit different. That's where, and believe it or not, with Volante, he really was the only Black hunter that I knew of, except later on in the fall season, I found that one of the dudes that was on the Black horror panel with me for Midsummer Scream, actually built a haunt last year. And then Midsummer Scream, bless their orange and black heart, found a couple of haunters in Compton. And this is what I told Volante. I said, you know what? You're out here speaking as a Black man in the haunt industry. There has to be Black haunters out there somewhere. But what you have to understand about Black people is we usually try to keep our shit to ourselves. And it's not always accepted amongst even our own community. I mean, I know from speaking of experience, but recently Midsummer Scream ended up finding a couple of Black haunters in Compton. And I'm like, they're at the top of my list because for my new updated show, which will air on March 5th, I have this whole new segment called Haunt Horoscope, where we're highlighting the journey of every haunter that I can get to send me a 5-minute video of what they have going on. Hint, hint, you too, on what you have going on starting now, because I want to follow your journey and then ultimately be there on opening night, because I also appreciate everything that home haunters do and what they've gone through, especially last year. Home haunters saved Halloween last year. So I kind of want to just show my appreciation. So it's called Haunt Horoscope, which highlights haunters and their progress starting now all the way up until the haunt season. And what I've said is if there are Black, Indigenous, people of color haunters out there, you will get moved to the front of my list for that, because we need to make it okay for people of color to be a part of this community. That's absolutely beautiful.
You know?
Yeah, it's a beautiful lifestyle. It's a freeing lifestyle. That's for fucking sure.
That's
showing that it's just the same as, like, guess what? We're going to value your opinion. We're going to value your perspective. We're going to value your work just as much as anyone else's work. If your shit is better than everyone else's, it's not going to be different. It's going to be better.
That's dope.
But if it is shit, I'm not interested.
You know, it's funny because we always talk, like, that's like something we always say too, is like, you know, well, like we've had thank God, you know what I mean? Like we've had people reach out to us and like want us to review their films, you know, which is nice.
We're always down to check out all these films. Everybody's on independent budgets and do stuff.
Whatever the case is, but we'll always tell you the truth, whether we like it or whether we don't. You know what I mean? It's just like one of those things. Yeah. But that's
I'll throw
so dope.
At you guys.
It's so cool that you have that lined up. It seems like you got a lot going on right now, which is amazing.
I do. I have the show, but I do love to write. That's one of the things. Like, I've been so busy these last few weeks. I took kind of like January as a month to chill. It felt like one big long ass Monday. I'm in a healing process, spiritually, emotionally, and everything. Not just from the pandemic, but personal things.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was at a crossroads, and I've made up my mind where I want my life to go from this point forward. And that took some healing, setting boundaries. And then I was like, all right, it's go time. So February was, all right, I actually am the editor-in-chief for the Row of the Dead magazine, which is a horror photographer, someone who I admired, that I had heard of. And then when I saw his work, I was like, how do I approach this dude? Next thing you know, all it took was me. I don't even know how we started talking, but we ended up, I had just mentioned to him, hey, dude, you should do you should do a magazine. And he's like, do you want to do it? Next thing I know, I'm putting together a magazine. And it started off really cool. Like, it was well received. Second issue came out. We only did 2 issues last year because it was a tough year. But it was so well received. But then I started remembering how I loved magazines, you know, back in the day. So I started subscribing to like Fangoria, Rue Morgue, Enchanted Fairies, all these things. And I'm like, I could do better. I cannot wait to show you all the work I did throughout February. We have 2 issues coming out. One's a special edition with a very, very famous goth model, but he's a horror photographer is the whole point. So we actually have some extra features in here now. I busted my ass with the layout, so I've been busy with that, creating 2 issues of this magazine, keeping up with my blogging, because I actually started submitting my own written work, not just me talking about, you know, films or, I mean, some of my blogs are essay pieces and opinions, but I also, you know, parted ways with Creepy Kingdom because I couldn't, it wasn't working. You know what I mean? I wasn't writing for myself. One of my psychic witch friends, Z, told me, I want to see more of what you have to write about. So I actually started submitting essays. One of them got published with Black Women Chronicles, Black Superwomen Chronicles, about manifestations and new beginnings. So just putting more of my original work out there, essays, poems, and then I'm going to start working on short stories. That's what I like to do in my spare time while I'm drinking or day drinking and whatnot. But I want to write, but I also have my show that I want to keep up with because that's for you guys, you know? I want to make sure that you guys keep in the know. I want to show my appreciation to haunters. I want to show my appreciation to the community and definitely keep on interviewing. I've interviewed some fucking amazing people.
And you're amazing yourself. And like, it's cool. It's just dope that you're on here with us. And I can't thank you enough. Again, you know, I'm going to keep thanking you.
Getting to have you as the interviewee this time.
It's crazy. But one of the things too, just before I forget, I think as far as Slack, I think I need to add you to this film project we're working on. Since you're talking about writing the script, I would have a draft already. So there's actually all 4 of us that are writing the script. It's a short horror. We already have a draft. I'm gonna have to send you another draft of like a movie that me, Volante, and Megan wrote last year. we casted
Love that.
we casted this movie, and we were already ready. We booked our locations. We went through like all this whole thing. The pandemic hit, and we lost our lead actress because she had the flu, which we think could have been Corona. We don't, it was in July, so not actually sure. Yeah. But now, like, as you know, we got this big group of people. So I'll have to send you the script for that.
Please.
And then if you could, like, I mean, if you want to be part of that, if you're into this writing, you are into this writing. So if you want to be part of that, I'd love to have you on. But with that said, I know we've had you on for a long time.
Oh my God, have I been on a long time? I'm so sorry.
I don't know. I didn't want to keep. It felt super short. I just didn't want to keep you. But one of the last things that we always do at the end of for our guests is ask them what their top 5 horror movies are.
Yep.
Yeah. That's easy. Okay. So I'll start
a lot of people have trouble with
5.
it too.
I hope I do it right. I love being asked this question because I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. Sometimes I'm like, oh shit. Okay, so I'll start with 5. 5. Okay, I don't know. Okay, I have a list. I'm just gonna name them, but definitely my number 1 I'll see for last. I definitely have to say American Werewolf in London is one of my top 5 for its practical effects. It was another movie that scared me as a kid, but I actually get really even sexually excited for it watching now. Met David Naughton myself at the very first Midsummer Scream. Had him sign a poster. Anyways, awesome film. So American Werewolf in London would be 5, I guess. Trick or Treat, Creep Show. I love horror anthologies. The first Creep Show. Also a fan, honorable mention for the show on Shudder is fucking excellent, but doesn't count. So what is that? 3, so I have 2 left. Terrifier, and then
nice.
Of course, Halloween 78.
John Carpenter, man. I love it. I love. So 2 of your movies that are in your top 5 are in my top 5. But actually, it was funny because as we were talking to you and just watching everything that you had in the background, it made me realize, when I made a top 5 in season 1, I forgot to add something, so I think I have to change stuff around
we'll have to expand this to top 10
because my top 5, I forgot to add, it's not scary, but it's dope. Halloween Town. I don't know why I didn't put that in my top 5. I love Halloween Town.
Because it's not a horror film. It's a Halloween movie. Yeah, but it's not a horror film.
It's actually listed as a family drama.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's in the same as Hocus Pocus. I love those. Or Nightmare Before Christmas. Or
I guess that's true. That's true. That's
horror and Halloween. I interviewed. I actually was on another show with a chick. The Pumpkin Queen. Fuck it. I don't know. Her moniker is awesome. Miranda, I love you. I'm just a little drunk. But she asked me is it okay she's not into horror that much. She goes, I'm trying. And I'm like, but she's a Halloween enthusiast. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with you not liking horror. Horror and Halloween don't have to be the same.
Yeah, they don't have to be
separate entities.
Yeah.
So never feel bad when you don't include, Nightmare Before Christmas. That's what I try to tell people. There's no wrong or right answer. But there is, Halloween.
That's why
horror.
When we ask top 5, it's not necessarily doesn't have to be the best. It just has to be your personal preference, your personal favorite. You know what I mean? So, like I said, Terrifier's in mine, and it's not.
I'm so glad that you said American Werewolf also, because I didn't appreciate this when my dad was telling me about this movie, but back in that was his, when he had seen that later, and he was like, dude, he showed me the transformation scene 1,000 times growing up, and I was like, I didn't appreciate it, and now that when I turned 15 and when I really started falling in love with horror and I started seeing that, I'm like, that scene is everywhere. I was like, I really didn't appreciate it like I should have, because it's so well done.
They don't make them like that anymore, that's for sure. That scene gets me every time. Plus the subway scene, I mean, that's just horrifying. It's an incredible film. It's so underrated, but it's a werewolf, so of course it is.
Yeah,
werewolves don't get a lot of play.
Yeah, I was a big Underworld fan, and so they brought in the Lycans eventually, and that's the closest we got. We got Dog Soldiers. You got some other small, but it really doesn't get the love it deserves, and honestly can be explored. But
that's an idea.
Yeah, exactly. So we absolutely love getting to talk this whole time. And your top 5, I absolutely love that it has some of Justin's parallels in there.
Yeah, I love it. It's dope, man.
I can do this all day.
I appreciate your time. Thank you. And sorry about the time confusion. I didn't even ask you where you were located before.
Sweetheart, I've done that
frames.
all of 2020. I did a class and I forgot to. I put it in my calendar for Pacific because I think everything revolves around California.
Yeah.
I remember
Cool.
I fucked up a whole class that I paid for. I've done it at least 4 times. I'm like, oh, even in Italy, try doing an interview from people in Italy. That's always fun to do.
So, seriously, thank you for being understanding. I'm glad it. Thank you.
Yes. You guys are rad.
So, and
Thank
if you ever need us if you ever need us for anything, if you ever need anything from us, don't hesitate to ask. Hit us up.
Oh, you're in trouble.
We are here for you. So
yeah. So we always do this to our guests. We like to give them one brief moment to just
plug your stuff.
Yeah,
man.
Plug your stuff. Say thank you if you want.
Whatever.
We probably aren't that great, but all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, am I thanking people? Oh man, I have a list.
No,
well, definitely. Oh, am I thanking people? I don't know.
You can say whatever you want. This is for you. You don't have to.
This is a minute to wrap up our talk with you, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, you don't.
Oh
you
my
can
God.
Do whatever you want, man. You got a camera?
Thank you for having me. No, stop. Thank you for having me, you guys. I really appreciate it. It's really nothing for me to be, there for other people who are doing the same thing that I'm doing. It's all my honor. So same thing. Ask me if you need anything. I got you. I am a texter though. So text me or instant message me, and then I will get into the mindset to have a huge conversation. I also have to, give it up. My husband is fucking awesome. I don't give him enough props. He acts like he doesn't want it. He's like, don't mention me. But I'm going to mention him. He's the guy that deals with all of my whining and asking him 1,000 questions in a minute. He's my tech dude. So thank you, babe.
Love
and
that.
really just the horror community is fucking awesome. Stop being assholes and do what we're here to do. We have a common enemy, and stop capitalizing off of each other. Just enjoy each other and just be who we are, the weirdos in the world. That's who we are. Everyone wants to be like us now, so hey. Make sure we don't lose sight of that. Don't lose sight of it, and just whatever your heart's telling you to do it. Now's the time. Now is the fucking time to do it.
I love that.
Yeah.
We appreciate
you. Guys
you.
are awesome.
I'll be in contact with you.
Yeah.
Almost every day, I'm assuming, with Volante. You know how Volante is.
Yeah.
So.
And we'll also keep you updated on when this episode's dropping and everything. That way you can share it if you like everything. And we'll obviously let you know when we're posting the audio, the video, and everything. But to everybody that's listening, Michelle Halloween is dope. And so thank y'all for
fucking
listening.
dope. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Love you all.
Love you. Thank you.
Bye.
Night.